Hey, what's up guys? Wanted to give you a quick review on a reel you might be interested in. It's the $149 Daiwa Tatula X TW. So this one basically replaced, I believe it was the Fuego or the CT. I can't remember. It was one of those that they had that they sold for like 80, 100 bucks. Then it went up to around 150. So this is basically the replacement in Daiwa's lineup for that $149 price point. So I wanted to kind of give you guys an idea about how this reel performs. I've got a little bit of on the water footage I'm going to show you guys here in a bit, where I throw a couple of different lures in some very low wind, and just kind of let you know how that looks. But 150 bucks, what do I think about it? Now, if you're looking at the Daiwa reels, you're going to see this 149 Tatula X TW. Then you're going to see a Tatula 100, which is a little bit of an upgrade. And then you're going to jump up to the Tatula SVs, which I have a couple. These are older models. That's a 20, I believe that's a 27 and a 2020 model, I want to say right there, but both Tatula SVs. And then we've got this newer Tatula X. So basically you'll see this, the 149 Tatula X, they have the 100, I believe they'll sell for around 200 to 209. And then when you get up into the SVs, they're now right around 250, I believe. So some of the differences, just kind of let me tell you guys what these are. I don't have that middle of the road one, but I do have some older SVs in this one. So I'm going to let you guys know how those compare if you're an SV user, or if you're thinking, you know, is it worth that extra $100 to jump up to an SV? That's kind of where we're at. Okay, I had to come inside. It's a little bit hot out there, guys. So what I was mentioning, I've used the Tatula SVs. I've thrown them thousands of times, caught many fish on them. So I'm super familiar with those. I love them. And I picked this thing up on discount, this Tatula X. And I've been kind of wanting to give it a try. I kind of wanted to add another Daiwa to my lineup because I really do enjoy them. And I just want to let you guys know what I think about it. Also, I really wish I had that middle tier model to compare it, but I don't. So I'm just going to compare it to some of the, a few year older SVs and, kind of the differences between them. So now this reel, I'll let you guys know, it casts very, very far. The reel itself is extremely smooth. So if you've used an SV before, or if you've heard about them, they feel very comparable. Now these have a few less bearings than what you'll find in an SV or in that Tatula 100. So those are probably new out of the box, going to be a little bit smoother than this. I'm comparing to one that's been a couple of years old and has been casted thousands of times, so kind of keep that in mind. But in terms of smoothness, this feels basically about the same as my older SV, which is an incredibly smooth reel. So in terms of smoothness on the reel, it's extremely good. The cast distance is excellent. Now what these have, so with this base model, Daiwa took some technology out of some of their higher end reels. So what you're going to have, it's got the MagForce Z braking in it. It's got the zero adjust spool tension knob, which I'm actually a fan of. They took the hyperdrive gearing from the nicer models and put it in here, and a couple of other things as well. So they give you some great features in this. Now in terms of the braking, on my old SVs, I could use these things on setting 10, setting 8 to 10 on just about anything and darn near any type of condition. The only time I really had to crank it up is if I'm casting into some direct wind, like I'm talking like 20 plus mile per hour wind, and I'd almost rarely ever need to go higher than 12 to 14. They're crazy good. Now with this one here, I will say, if you're throwing something like a 3/8 chatterbait or a swim jig or something with some weight to it, that operates perfectly fine. I was out there, and I'll show you in a video here in a little bit. I was out there throwing that on setting 8. It chunks them out there just fine. I had a light breeze, probably like 3 to 5 miles an hour, so nothing major. Now, I did throw this the other day with some 12-pound fluorocarbon on it in heavy winds with a jerkbait. Now, I will say that is a different story, guys. So even cranking this thing up quite a bit, I'm talking like 16 to 18, casting it straight into winds with something like a jerkbait, it's not the best for that. So Daiwa Tatula, you can get away with anything. You could almost throw a 1/4 ounce rooster tail or something on that thing into wind with the brakes cranked up high enough, you're going to be okay. This one, if you try to do that and you're not careful, you may be rewarded with a backlash. So something to kind of keep in mind, guys. Now, in terms of how this thing works, like I said, if you're going with the higher weight lures, like the 3/8 ounce or something like that, You can cast them all day long, no problem. I went out and cast a chatterbait the other night with some wind, perfectly fine. It's just when you get those very high winds and something like the jerk baits or some of those lures that kind of tend to catch wind mid-cast, that's where you can run into some problems. The SV with that SV spool is more forgiving. So just kind of keep that in mind. In terms of the actual smoothness on it though, they feel great, guys. And for a $150 reel, I don't think you're going to regret this at all. That's one thing I forgot to mention. The one it replaced, I believe it was the Fuego. They didn't have the, it might have been the CT. I can't remember which one this replaced, but they did not have the T-wing system on it, whereas this Tatula X does have the T-wing system. So, but anyways, let me go ahead and get you into the video. I'll show you some of the lures I casted. I casted some lighter stuff like Texas rig, weightless worms. And then I threw, what else did I throw? A chatterbait and a swim jig on this video, I believe. So stick around, take a look, and see what you think.
Yeah, so today I'm going to do some on-the-water testing here with the Daiwa Tatula X TW 100. That's the $149 Tatula offering. I've got this set on setting 9 of 20 for the brakes right now. And I haven't messed with the zero adjuster knob. 30-pound braid, 20-pound fluoro. And I'm going to test this on just a weightless Texas rigged worm today. Well, for now. Well, I'll probably switch it up later, but for now we're going to do Texas rigged worm. So let's see how this casts. I do have a little slight breeze out here right now. Casting into the breeze. I need to try that again here. Okay, so I cast that into the breeze, and that might have been from the line, so let's give that another shot. Okay, yeah, I casted fine. I think I had a little hang up on the spool there, so yeah, I casted just fine. Might have tightened something, or the line bit into its spool there a little bit. So let's do another cast here, leaving the brake setting where it is on 9, casting into the slight breeze. Now, if you don't thumb the spool, it overran just a little bit, which that's fine, because I don't like my spool tension super tight to where it won't do that. So I always do thumb them, but I just wanted to see what that would do with a weightless worm into the breeze. Completely acceptable, very slight overrun. And we'll do that again here. I'm going to drop this down. Let's drop this down a notch or two. Okay, we've got it on setting 6 now. Okay, so weightless worm, setting 6, into the breeze, and that got us a little bit of a backlash. Okay, so, which I kind of didn't expect it to do that, but that's okay. Not entirely shocked either, casting a weightless worm into the wind. Now I've got a couple of Tatula SVs at home. On my SVs, it's going to be comparable with those guys, so I'll normally run them on setting 10. That's kind of where I like to use them. In the setting 10, you can get away with most stuff quite well. I almost never go up to setting 20 or anything, so that's setting 10 right there. Honestly, I think the setting 9 felt great for this worm into the slight breeze, but just wanted to kind of set that. I'm actually going to crank that back down to 9. There we go. Okay. So on a weightless Texas rig into a very slight breeze with this line and rod and everything, looks like setting 9, 10, probably setting 8 you could get away with it. Maybe don't go too far down from the brakes on that, unless you want to potentially face some backlashing. Yeah, this thing casts just great on setting 9 with this worm. So if it's casting this weightless worm that good, guys, with the brakes only not even halfway up, basically, if we throw something on like a swim jig or a chatterbait, something with a little bit more weight to it, this thing's gonna cast it out there really, really well. And in terms of the smoothness, if you've thrown a Daiwa Tatula before, you know that they have an incredibly smooth reel. It's almost like you're reeling against the air. It's very, very smooth. This one's newer, so it's hard to compare to my Daiwa Tatulas that have literally been casted and reeled thousands and thousands of times, but it feels extremely smooth. I would say almost just as smooth as those right now, but again, mine are old, so it's kind of hard to do a great comparison. But in comparison to, say, something like the Shimano SLX 70, I would say based on where you have to set the spool tension, on the SLX 70 you do have to crank that spool tension down a little bit, on lighter, some of those lighter lures or things to prevent overrun if you're, casting into wind and everything. Whereas this has a 0 setting adjustment from the factory. So if you loosen the SLX 70 up enough, it feels probably about as smooth as this. But based on how you have to tension that in order to not have the backlashing issues, I would say this Tatula X is a more smooth reel. It feels more effortless on the retrieve for sure than the SLX 70, which is a $165 Shimano reel. If you're not familiar with it, with the size 70 spool, it's MGL, nice casting reel. Okay, so I've tied on a 3/8 ounce swim jig with the craw trailer, and I'm going to cast that. Same conditions here, guys. Like so, a very slight breeze. I'm going to go ahead and leave this on setting 9. Cast it out there. Okay, that works great. Let's move it down to setting 7 and see if that will backlash. So I'm moving it down a few. And I'm flinging this pretty hard, guys. I'm not doing a real soft, perfectly controlled cast or anything. So here's setting 7. Okay, wow, we got some great distance. This setting that break down 2 definitely knocked that distance out quite a bit. So yeah, I would have no problems throwing that. Almost felt like I had a little bite there. Some weeds though, I think. Yeah, so setting 7, for my own feel, just kind of based on how that felt there, I would probably want to go with like an 8 or a 9, just because I don't like to pay super close attention to avoiding backlash while I'm casting. So I like to kind of set it to where it's not going to have any issues. But yeah, oh wow, look at that. So setting 7 absolutely launches that swim jig. And I got a bite on there. Something just bit me. Ooh, something bit the swim jig as it was falling. Let me get that back in. I'm going to cast this right back out to that spot, actually. Let's see if we can catch one on this reel today. Oh yeah, I can hear that line just maybe slightly overlap a little bit, or slightly whisk up just a little bit on that setting 7, but it's of no concern. Now if you were in a heavy wind, you might get a backlash on that 7, but it's absolutely usable for calm conditions, no problem. You could probably go down a little more even and not do such an aggressive whippy cast like that and be just fine. Oh yeah, very good. Yeah, so this thing, it can definitely cast, guys. I did try it the other day with some 12-pound fluorocarbon, casting a jerkbait into some quite windy conditions, and I will admit I was having a little trouble with it out there. You'd have to, now I'm talking, it was very high winds directly in your face, so you'd have to crank this thing up to near the end to not have too many issues with it, unless you did a nice controlled sidearm cast. So if you're going super heavy winds, that's where I'll say, comparing this to my Daiwa Tatula SVs, that SV is a true champion for casting into direct wind. I don't think anything can beat it that I've used anyways, but I'm talking a jerkbait, which is not the easiest thing to cast into high wind. They like to get caught mid-cast if you have any upward launch at all. You have to really be careful, almost kind of sidearm them in that wind, and I wasn't being careful. And so that's something where the SV is definitely better. But in normal conditions, normal lures, not stressing about that, if you just crank this thing up a little bit, you can 100% make this work, no problem. Okay, so I'm going to try to crank this thing all the way up to setting 20 on the brakes. And I'll warn you guys, I am not very good when it comes to like skipping and stuff, but let's just try to do it and see how it does. Oh boy, that blew up on me. Okay, so I can tell you right there, compared to the SV, now I didn't put my thumb on that at all, but I know my SVs though, guys, like if you crank those up to setting 20, you can pretty much do something like that. And this isn't a terrible overrun. This is something you can pick out in a matter of seconds. It's not a big deal, so it's not like a severe overrun or backlash at all. Let's try it with my thumb like a normal person would do. Yeah, okay, so like I said, I'm not good at skipping, guys, at all, but I've just kind of played a little bit with it. And okay, yeah, so that, guys, I'm going to tell you right there, that somebody who knows how to do it could probably do that better than me, but just for my kind of playing around with it and testing it, the SVs will absolutely destroy this thing. trying to skip like that. So if you're kind of wondering where the SV spool shines, it's going to be on things like that, or if you're casting lighter lures directly into the wind, it definitely beats the Tatula XTW 100. So, but if you're not doing any of that, this thing seems to cast very, very good, and it's very, very smooth. It has the smoothness of the Daiwa, it has the long casting of the Daiwas that you know. It has the T-wing system on it. They've got the zero adjust, which I really like the zero adjust because I honestly don't like messing with it a whole lot. I kind of like to just throw something on and only worry about the external brakes and not have to worry about setting spool tension. You can turn that if you want to, but Daiwa set it to what they consider optimal from the factory. So it's definitely something you can just leave alone. So, okay, so let's see how the Tatula X throws this 3/8 chatterbait. And it's got a Z-Man chatter spike trailer on it. I'll leave it on that setting 8. Is it on 8 still? Yeah, it's still on 8. So, yep, casted just fine, guys. Like I said, we're in an extremely light breeze here. It's probably like a 3-4 mile per hour wind, so hardly nothing. No issues casting this thing with the brakes not even half up. So yeah, I'd say if you're looking at this, for the $149 price point, it's a very, very nice little reel. And I like that you really only have to deal with the external brakes on it, the MagForce brakes. I personally am a fan of the zero setting on there. I think it's nice to just be able to swap lures all the time, just deal with your external brakes, not have to worry about resetting spool tension all the time either. So yeah, this here is nice. It seems very smooth. It casts far. Now if you're wanting it for skipping, look at the SV or something else, in my opinion, because I'm not good at doing that, but just briefly testing it, I feel like it's a little more sensitive to overrun and backlash than my SVs are for sure. So that's just my thought coming from a person who sucks at skipping, so keep that in mind. But anyways, yeah, seems like a solid product for $149. I got mine on sale and I only paid $119 for it, so keep an eye out for that. I think you could do far worse for $100 or $120 for a reel. And I like that they incorporate a lot of the technology from the higher end Daiwa line, such as the hyperdrive. They have the what do they call it? Hyperdrive, something with the gear. They call it like forever housing or something along the lines of that. And the zero adjust. So, and the T-wing, of course, they didn't have that on the old. I think it was the Daiwa CT or the Fuego. I can't remember. Whatever that kind of cheaper model was, this is kind of what that replaced. And it seems like it has a lot better technology in it for the price. So yeah, solid little option, guys.